No surprise that it does so well in the box office, Julian. I mean, we went to watch the movie together, and I thought it was such a powerful film and really touching at the same time. I thought the director really addressed a thorny issue really well through the storyline.
I thought this was such a beautiful film that goes straight to your heart, but also opens up conversations about some very serious issues. And for more, we're now joined in the studio by Dr. Spencer Fowler, and CEO and Superintendent of the affiliated high school of Peking University's Dalton Academy. Welcome, Spencer.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
This film is a film that talks about bullying in school. What were some of the reactions to the film from the students at the Academy?
I think what's been exciting is that a lot of students and faculty have been really brave to address this issue, and then also for us to look internally within our own organization, are we doing enough to support students and to make sure that we can identify anyone who might be subject to this sort of behavior.
And this conversation is also bringing a lot of people from all walks of life into the conversation. For now, we're also joining our conversation right now is Max Young, producer and former director of the market department of Shanghai International Film Festival from Shanghai. Welcome, Max from Shanghai.
Hello, Max.
Now, Max.
Hello.
This film has been hailed as one of the best films of 2019. It's a film that resonated not only with just the youth, but as well as across the entire society. Why do you think this film has made such an impact?
Well, I think, to me, the biggest reason for its success is that the movie is emotionally packed. As an audience, I experienced various of emotions that are so relatable and also can, to me, can travel across generations and also social classes even. And you don't have to be a small-town high school student to understand the movie, to appreciate the story. We feel vividly about their friendship, the bonding between the two major characters, and we also feel their loneliness, their pain, and the suffering, you know, when growing up. And I think especially the urgency, their eagerness to make breakthrough, to go to a higher place, to change their lives. So I think that's all very identifiable. And secondly, I think the movie successfully provided the audience with a very real and three-dimensional kind of world, story world. It didn't just portray what happened in the campus, but also provide us a very panoramic point of view of different parties. So in the movie, we see schools, we see families, and also police authority, and those bully kids, and even those, you know, indifferent onlookers. And I think all this helps the audience enter the story world very quickly. You know, my own experience is when I was in the cinema, I found myself totally engaged, and you just can't help contemplating on why this happened and how this happened, you know, during the whole viewing of the movie.
I mean, like Max said, this is something, it's not a China problem, it's a universal problem. We encounter school bullying. I mean, when I was growing up, I wasn't a victim of school bullying, but I encounter it. You see it every day. It's around you. So, Spencer, I want to ask you, do you think this film did so well because it's relatable? People can really relate to these characters that are being portrayed in the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, in every context that I've worked around the globe, you see it. And I think bullying is something that's growing and evolving with social media now, so it doesn't have to necessarily be just in the physical and the face-to-face. And that's what makes it even more frightening, that things can linger on in the internet and be really harmful.
And Spencer, how pandemic and serious is this problem of bullying in school in this country?
Like Louisa said, I think it's a global issue, it's a global problem, and I think there's a lot of work to be done. And I think this movie raises a lot of great points and awareness for us to think about, you know, how are we protecting, how are we looking after students, how are we looking after people in general.
And Spencer, you worked in various school systems around the world. Beijing is just your recent stop. I want to ask you, from your experience, what do you think parents need to do? What do teachers need to do? And what do students need to do to stop this, or at least lower school bullying?
I mean, there needs to be a commitment, you know, a zero tolerance for such behavior, and we need to make sure that we really value and appreciate everyone for their unique self, and we are supporting them on these goals as they work to be successful and to better the world. So we need to have systems in place that are going to be conducive to that, so that students can go and ask for help, if not for themselves, but for their friends, we want to encourage people to be brave and to step up. We need to make sure that there are people within these organizations that are knowledgeable and can well receive these students, hear those messages. We can isolate the incident, provide support for the students, and then figure out, you know, what's the root of the cause here that we can then work to improve and to educate.
And Max, this film is a youth film. What do you think this film, how does this film stand out in terms of against other youth films that we've seen around?
I think first, our audience are quite familiar, quite used to, and feel comfortable with all those traditional youth movies. You know, many of which tend to romanticize the good old days or indulge in those nostalgic feelings. But Better Days, I would say, very different, and it's very refreshing movie, but only bitterly. So it very bravely kind of tackles the dark side of the campus life, of growing up, and doesn't really shy away from asking difficult questions. And to me, the story is very profound, and it's a brave movie. And secondly, I have to point out, technically, also, it is masterfully done. As you said, enough kudos has been given to our two major actors, who I believe in the upcoming award nomination season, they will get quite a few nominations on their way. But also, I want to point out things like cinematography, so good, and it's really put the audience at a close look at the subject. When I say close, it doesn't really mean figuratively, but also literally, because you probably noticed there are so many close-up shots in the movie that they literally pressing the camera so close to the actor's face.
Absolutely,
and it really
Max.
makes you become part of them.
Max,
and it's almost very suffocating, but it works.
Max, this is a beautiful film that's also addressing some very serious topics. Now, we know that we were talking about earlier, Spencer, that identification is also a very important part of prevention, as we were talking about. A lot of the people who are being bullied are also not receiving enough attention or being neglected by their families and parent guardians at home. So help us understand, what are some of the signs of people around us could be being bullied? Because bullying doesn't always have physical manifestations.
Right. I mean, it could be different for everyone. But if we see a change in behavior, if we see that someone who's normally quite composed is lashing out, we see that someone has a difficult time sleeping, or their eating habits change, they're becoming violent to themselves or to others. So it's making sure that we know these people that we care about, and there's that ongoing dialogue and support. And some people might be trying to hide that from their loved ones. They might not want to burden them with it. So it's keeping your ear to the ground and knowing your children and knowing those that you care about, because we don't know what sort of things that they're going through.
And how can we encourage friends or students to help each other out, without becoming a victim yourself? So sometimes when you stand up for other people, you start getting bullied too. So how can we encourage that kind of confidence? Absolutely.
I mean, like we said earlier, it's a global phenomenon. If we want to make change, then we need to be brave, and we need to be willing to reach out to those that we know are there to listen and that are going to be there to help us. So if not willing to speak against the people who are harming you, then finding people who will care and then who can help.
And as we can see in this film, the one being bullied and the one who bullies are really one of the same coin, or one of the same. So where are we in this country in terms of psychological counseling in school for everyone?
I can only speak to my own organization, but we do have trained professionals within the school, and there's mentors and advisors, and it's a community that's aware and looking and supportive and loving and encouraging. So we have that dialogue, and I think that a lot of other schools do as well. And I think that you don't have to be that trained professional, but knowing that something's not right, then reaching out to those people on behalf of those individuals.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Spencer and Max from Shanghai.
Thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you.